Thousands of years ago, Hippocrates told us, "If food be thy medicine, let medicine be thy food." And he talked to us about the benefits of vegetables and not eating meat. Now let's hear about the science from Dr.
Personal note. This is a picture of me taken around the time that my grandmother was diagnosed with end-stage heart disease and sent home to die. She already had so many bypass surgeries, basically run out of plumbing, confined in a wheelchair, crushing chest pain. Her life was over at age 65. But then she heard about this guy, Nathan Pritikin, one of our early lifestyle medicine pioneers, and what happened next is actually detailed in Pritikin's biography. My grandma was one of the death's door people. Frances Geger, my grandmother, arrived in a wheelchair. Mrs. Geger had heart disease, angina, claudication. Her condition so bad, she could no longer walk without great pain in her chest and legs. Within 3 weeks, though, she was not only out of her wheelchair, she was walking 10 miles a day. Here's a picture of my grandma at her grandson's wedding, 15 years after doctors had abandoned her to die. She was given a medical death sentence at age 65, but thanks to a healthy diet, was able to enjoy another 31 years on this planet till age 96 to enjoy her 6 grandkids, including me. That's why I went into medicine. So years later, when Dr. Dean Ornish published his landmark lifestyle heart trial proving with something called quantitative angiography that indeed heart disease could be reversed, arteries opened up without drugs, without surgery, just a plant-based diet and lifestyle program, I assumed this was going to be the game changer. I mean, my family had seen it with their own eyes, but here it was, in black and white, published in some of the most prestigious medical journals in the world, yet nothing happened. So, wait a second. If effectively the cure to our number one killer could get lost down some rabbit hole and ignored, what else might there be in the medical literature that could help my patients, but just didn't have a corporate budget driving its promotion? Well, I made it my life's mission to find out. For those of you who aren't familiar with my work, every year I read through every issue of every English language nutrition journal in the world, so busy folks like you don't have to. I then compile the most interesting, most groundbreaking, most practical findings to new videos and articles I upload every day to my nonprofit site, nutritionfacts.org. Everything on the website is free. There are no ads and no corporate sponsorship, strictly non-commercial, not selling anything. Just put it up as a public service, as a labor of love, as a tribute to my grandmother. New videos and articles every day on the latest in evidence-based nutrition. What a concept. So where did Pritikin get his evidence from? Well, a network of missionary hospitals set up throughout sub-Saharan Africa uncovered what may be one of the most important medical advances. According to one of our most preeminent medical figures of the last century, Dr. Dennis Burkett, the fact that many of our major and commonest diseases were universally rare, like heart disease. In the African population of Uganda, for example, coronary artery disease was almost non-existent. Wait a second, our number one killer, almost non-existent. What were they eating? Well, they're eating lots of vegetables and grains and greens, and their protein almost entirely from plant sources. And they had the cholesterol levels to prove it, very similar to what one sees in kind of modern day plant eaters. You say, wait a second, maybe they were just all dying early, never lived long enough to get heart disease. No, here's age-matched heart attack rates in Uganda versus St. Louis. Out of 632 autopsies in Uganda, only one myocardial infarction. Out of 632 age and gender matched autopsies in Missouri, 136 myocardial infarctions, more than 100 times the rate of our leading killer. In fact, they were so blown away, went back, did another 800 autopsies in Uganda, still just had one small healed infarct, I mean, it wasn't even the cause of death. Out of 1,427 patients, less than 1 in 1,000, whereas here, our disease is an epidemic. Atherosclerosis. Hardening of the arteries is a disease that begins in childhood, by age 10. Nearly all kids raised on the standard American diet already have what are called fatty streaks building up inside of their arteries, the first stage of the disease. These streaks then turn into plaques in our 20s, get worse in our 30s, and then can start killing us off. In our heart, it's called a heart attack, and in our brain, the same disease can cause a stroke. So if there's anyone here today older than age 10, then the question isn't whether or not to eat healthy to prevent heart disease, it's whether you want to reverse the heart disease you likely already have, whether you know it or not. But is that even possible? When researchers took people with heart disease, put them on the kind of plant-based diet followed by populations that did not get epidemic heart disease, their hope was, hey, maybe we could slow the disease down a little bit, maybe even stop it. But instead, something miraculous happened. As soon as people stopped eating artery clogging diets, their bodies were able to start dissolving some of that plaque away, opening up arteries without drugs, without surgery, suggesting their bodies wanted to be healthy all along, but were just never given the chance. That remarkable improvement in blood flow to the heart muscle itself was after just 3 weeks of plant-based nutrition. The human body is a self-healing machine, unless you're sticking it with a fork 3 times a day. Now, sure, you can choose moderation and hit yourself with a smaller hammer, but why beat yourself up at all? This is nothing new. American Heart Journal, 1977, cases like Mr. F.W. here, heart disease so bad, couldn't even make it to the mailbox. Started eating healthier. A few months later, he was climbing mountains, no pain. All right? Now, there are these fancy new classes of anti-angina drugs on the market now, cost thousands of dollars a year, but at the highest dose may be able to extend exercise duration as long as 33.5 seconds. It does not look like those choosing the drug route are going to be climbing mountains anytime soon. See, plant-based diets aren't just safer and cheaper, they can work better because you're treating the underlying cause of the disease. Now, normally I'd go on to cancer, talk about the other 15 leading causes of death, talk about the role diet may play in preventing, arresting, or reversing each of our top 15 killers, but what more do you need to know? There's only one diet ever been proven to reverse heart disease in the majority of patients, a plant-based diet. So anytime someone tries to sell you on some new diet, do me a favor, ask them one simple question. What are you saying? Has this diet been proven to reverse heart disease? Number one reason me and all my loved ones will die. I mean, the answer is no. Why would you even consider it? If that's all a plant-based diet could do, reverse the number one killer of men and women, shouldn't that kind of be the default diet until proven otherwise? And the fact that it can also be useful in preventing, arresting, reversing other leading killers like type 2 diabetes and hypertension would seem to make the case for plant-based eating simply overwhelming. Most deaths in the United States are preventable and related to nutrition. According to the Global Burden of Disease Study, the largest study of human disease risk factors in history, funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the number one cause of death in these United States, it's our diet. The number one cause of disability in the United States, it's our diet. Now bumping tobacco smoking to number 2, cigarettes now only kill about 500,000 Americans every year, whereas our diet kills hundreds of thousands more. So if most deaths are preventable related to nutrition, then obviously nutrition is the number one thing taught in medical school, right? I mean, obviously it's the number one thing your doctor talks to you about at every single visit, right? So how could there be this disconnect between the science and the practice of medicine? Let's do a thought experiment. Imagine yourself a smoker back in the 1950s. Back in the 1950s, the average per capita cigarette consumption was 4,000 cigarettes a year, meaning the average person walking around smoked half pack a day, on average. The media was telling people to smoke. Famous athletes agreed. Even Santa Claus wanted you to smoke. I mean, look, you want to keep fit and stay slender, so make sure to smoke and eat lots of hot dogs to stay trim and lots of sugar to stay slim and trim. A lot better than that apple there. I mean, sheesh, right? Though apples do connote goodness and freshness, reads one internal tobacco industry memo, which brings up many possibilities for a youth-oriented cigarette. They wanted to make apple-flavored cigarettes for kids. Shameless. For digestion's sake, you smoke. No curative powers claimed by Philip Morris, but hey, better be safe than sorry, and smoke. Blow in her face and she'll follow you anywhere. No woman ever says no, they're so round, so firm, so fully packed. After all, John Wayne smoked them until he got lung cancer and died. You know, back then, even the paleo folks were smoking. And so were the doctors. Now, this is not to say there wasn't controversy within the medical profession. Sure, you know, some doctors smoke Camels, but others preferred Lucky. So there was a little disagreement there. The leader of the U.S. Senate agreed. Who would want to give their throat a vacation? Not a single case of throat irritation. How could there be when cigarettes are just as pure as the water you drink? Maybe up in Flint, Michigan. But don't worry, if you do get irritated, your doctor can just write you a prescription for cigarettes. This is in the Journal of the American Medical Association. So when the AMA is saying smoking on balance is good for you, and the American Medical Association is saying that, where could you turn back then if you just wanted the facts? What's the new data advanced by science? Well, she was too tired for fun, and then she smoked a Camel. Babe Ruth spoke of proof positive medical signs, that is, when he still could speak, before he died of throat cancer. You know, by some miracle back then, there was a smokingfacts.org website that could deliver the science directly, bypassing commercially corruptible institutional filters. You would have become aware of studies like this. This is an Adventist study out of California, published in 1958, showing that non-smokers had at least 90% less lung cancer than smokers, right? But this wasn't the first. When famed surgeon Michael DeBaker was asked why his studies back in the 30s linking lung cancer and smoking were simply ignored, he had to remind people what it was like back then. We were a smoking society. It was everywhere. It was in the movies, airplanes, medical meetings where one heavy haze of smoke. Smoking was, in a word, normal. Okay. So back to our thought experiment. If you're a smoker in the 50s in the know, what do you do? I mean, with access to the science, you realize the best available balance of evidence suggests your smoking habit, not so good for you. So do you change? Or do you wait? If you wait until your doctor tells you between puffs to quit, you could have cancer by then. If you wait until the powers that be officially recognize it, like the Surgeon General did in the subsequent decade, you could be dead by then. It took more than 7,000 studies and the deaths of countless smokers before the first Surgeon General's report against smoking came out. You'd think maybe after the first 6,000 studies could give people a little heads up or something? Powerful industry. Maybe we should have stopped smoking after the 700th study like this. As a smoker in the 50s, on one hand, you had all of society, the government, the medical profession itself telling you to smoke. And on the other hand, all you had was the science. If you're even aware of studies like this. All right, well, let's fast forward 55 years. You know, there's a new Adventist study out of California warning Americans about something else they may be putting in their mouths Of course, it's not just one study, put all the studies together. Mortality from all causes put together, many of our dreaded diseases significantly lower among those eating more plant-based diets. So, instead of someone going along with America's smoking habits in the 50s, imagine you or someone you know going along with America's eating habits today. What do you do? I mean, with access to the science, you realize the best available balance of evidence suggests your eating habits are not so good for you. So do you change? Or do you wait? If you wait until your doctor tells you between bites to change, it could be too late. In fact, even after the Surgeon General's report came out, the American Medical Association went on record refusing to endorse it. Why? Could it have been because they were just handed a $10 million check from the tobacco industry? Maybe. So we know why the tobacco industry was sucking up, why the AMA was sucking up to the tobacco industry. But why weren't more individual doctors speaking up? There were a few gallant souls ahead of their time, speaking up against industries killing millions, but why not more? Maybe it's because the majority of physicians themselves smoke cigarettes. Just like the majority of physicians today continue to eat foods that are contributing to our epidemics of dietary disease. What was the AMA's rallying cry back then? Everything in moderation. Extensive scientific studies have proven smoking in moderation, oh, that's fine. Sound familiar? The food industry used the same tobacco industry tactics, twisting the science, misinformation. The same scientists for hire paid to downplay the risks of cigarettes and toxic chemicals are the same paid for by the National Confectioners Association to downplay the risks of candy, and the same paid for by the meat industry to downplay the risks of meat. Whereas animal foods and processed foods may be killing off at least 14 million people every year. So those of us involved in this kind of evidence-based nutrition revolution, we're talking 14 million lives in the balance. Maybe, plant-based nutrition should be considered kind of the nutritional equivalent of quitting smoking. But how long do we have to wait before the CDC says, don't wait for open heart surgery to start eating healthier as well? Until the system changes, we need to take personal responsibility for our own health, for our family's health. We can't wait until society catches up to the science again, because it's a matter of life and death. A few years ago, Dr. Kim Williams became president of the American College of Cardiology. He was asked in an interview why he himself follows the same diet he recommends to all his patients, a strictly plant-based diet. I don't mind dying, Dr. Williams replied. I just don't want it to be my own fault. Thank you.
Thousands of years ago, the Bible told us that seeds, fruit, should be our food. The healing of the nations will come from the leaves of the field. We're told not to eat pig, and not to have food that had blood in it, like meat. You see that Hippocrates told us that all disease begins in the gut. Now we're starting to find out that the bowel flora is so important and it needs plant fiber to exist. Hippocrates told us many years ago about the benefits of plants and what food be thy medicine. We need the food of the plants, the plant fiber, to feed the bacteria, because this is how that bacteria will make the different hormones we need. The happy hormone, stress-fighting hormone, bonding hormone, pleasure hormone, motivation hormones. This is all done through the plant fiber that we need. Whole plant foods. The chemical companies got it wrong. They're not going to find synthetic drugs that are going to be able to do this. They're always trying to do this, but it's the wrong type of thinking. We need to get to whole plant foods. Whole plant foods will boost your metabolism, help you to lose weight, enhance your mood, mental clarity, and cleanse your body. We need to get plant fiber. Very important. We also need beans. Beans, the musical fruit. The more you eat, the more you toot. The more you toot, the better you feel. So why not have beans for every meal? Save the planet. Seriously, save the planet. Eat beans, not meat.
I love Texas in the springtime. I love Texas in the fall. I love Texas in the winter when it drizzles. I love Texas in the summer when it sizzles. I love Texas every moment of the year.
With smoked brisket,
I love Texas in the winter.
mesquite barbecue sauce, and jalapeno straws.
When it sizzles.
You missed a spot.
Everyone wants a taste of Texas.
I love Texas.
Introduce
If these girls really ate food like that, this is what they would look like before long. Huh? We have to stop the French fries. We've got to stop boiling foods in oil. We got to get rid of the high calorie, low nutrition foods like corn and potatoes, and especially the sugar. We have to substitute applesauce so we get that fiber from apple smoothies, and we get rid of that sugar, the fiberless sugar. We have to stop the juices and go to fruit smoothies. We have to learn what not to eat, and then we have to learn what to eat. Once we get this all down, we can start to get really healthy. Now let's learn about weight loss and how to get a diet of whole plant foods to help our health.
Surely, if there was some safe, simple, side effect-free solution to the obesity epidemic, we'd know about it by now, right? I'm not so sure. It may take an average of 17 years before research findings make it into day-to-day clinical practice. To take one example that was particularly poignant for my family, heart disease. Dr. Dean Ornish and colleagues demonstrated decades ago that our leading cause of death could be reversed with diet and lifestyle changes alone, yet hardly anything happened. Even now, hundreds of thousands of Americans continue to needlessly die from what we learned decades ago was a reversible condition. I saw it with my own eyes. My grandmother was cured of her end-stage heart disease by Nathan Pritikin, one of Dean's predecessors, using similar methods. She was given a medical death sentence at age 65, but thanks to a healthy diet, was able to enjoy another 31 years on this planet until age 96 to continue to enjoy her 6 grandkids, including me. So if effectively the cure to our number one killer could get lost down some rabbit hole and ignored, what else might there be in the medical literature that could help my patients but just didn't have a corporate budget driving its promotion? Well, I made it my life's mission to find out. That's why I became a doctor in the first place and why I started a nonprofit site called nutritionfacts.org. Everything on the website's free. There are no ads, no corporate sponsorship, strictly non-commercial, not selling anything. Just put it up as a public service, as a labor of love, as a tribute to my grandmother. New videos and articles nearly every day, and the latest in evidence-based nutrition. What a concept. Okay, so what does the science show is the best way to lose weight? If you want testimonials and before and after pictures, you have come to the wrong place. I'm not interested in anecdotes, I'm interested in evidence. When it comes to making decisions, as life and death important, as to what to feed ourselves and our families, then there's really only one question. What does the best available balance of evidence say right now? Okay, well look, with enough portion control, anyone can lose weight. Lock someone in a closet, you can force them to lose as much body fat as you want. Chaining someone to a treadmill could have a similar effect. But what's the best weight loss regimen that doesn't involve calorie restriction or exercise or a felony? Well, I have scoured through the medical literature at all the randomized controlled trials, and the single most successful strategy to date is a diet of whole plant foods. The single most effective intervention like that ever published in the peer-reviewed scientific medical literature, a whole food plant-based diet. That works better than anything else studied to date. I mean, we've known for more than 40 years that those who eat predominantly plant-based weigh, on average, about 30 pounds lighter than the general population. But you don't know if it's the diet itself until you put it to the test. In 2017, a group of researchers in New Zealand published a broad study, a 12-week randomized controlled trial in the region with the highest obesity rates, the poorest region in the country. Overweight individuals were randomized to either standard medical care or semi-weekly classes offering advice and encouragement to eat low-fat diets centered around fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes, which are beans, split peas, chickpeas, and lentils. And that's all it was, just empowerment with knowledge. No meals were provided. People were merely informed about the benefits of plant-based eating and encouraged to, incorporate it into their own lives. No significant change in the control group, but the plant-based intervention group, even without any restrictions on portions and being able to freely eat all the healthy foods they wanted, lost, on average, 19 pounds by the end of the 3-month study. Look, 19 pounds is a respectable weight loss, but what happened next? At the end of those 12 weeks, class was dismissed and no more instruction was given. The researchers were curious, how much weight the subjects had gained back after being released from the study. So at the 6-month mark, everyone was invited back to get reweighed. The plant-based group had left the 3-month study 19 pounds lighter, but by 6 months they were only down about 27 pounds. They got even better. The plant-based group was feeling so good physically and mentally, had been able to come off so many of their medications that they were sticking with the diet on their own, and the weight had continued to come off. All right, what about a year later? Even in studies that last a whole year, where people are, put on a particular diet, coached the entire year to stick to it, by the end of the year, any initial weight loss in the first few months tends to creep on back. The broad study only lasted 3 months, yet after it was all over, those who had been randomized to the plant-based group not only lost dozens of pounds, they kept it off. They not only lost more weight at 6 and 12 months than any other comparable trial. That was months after the study had already ended. Whole food plant-based diet achieved the greatest weight loss ever recorded compared to any other such trial published in the medical literature. You can read the record-breaking study free in full at nature.com/article/NUTD2173, or just point your phone camera at the screen and pick off the QR code. Any diet that results in a reduction in calorie intake can result in weight loss. Dropping pounds isn't so much the issue. The problem is keeping them off. And a key difference between plant-based nutrition and more traditional approaches to weight loss is people are encouraged to eat ad libitum, meaning you can eat as much as you want. No calorie counting, no portion control, just eating. Right? The strategy is to improve the quality of the food rather than restricting the quantity of food. If you put people on a diet packed with fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and beans, allow them to eat as much as they want, they end up eating about 50% fewer calories than they otherwise would. Wait, how can you keep people satisfied removing 1,000 calories out of their daily diet? By eating more high bulk, low calorie density foods, vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and beans, and fewer calorie dense foods, the meats, cheeses, sugars, and fats. But it may not just be the calories in side of the equation. Those eating more plant-based appear to effectively be burning more calories in their sleep. The resting metabolic rate of those eating more plant-based may be 10% higher or more, a boost of metabolism that can translate into burning off hundreds of extra calories a day more without doing a thing. Eating plant-based, you burn more calories just being alive, just existing. So no wonder why those who eat more plant-based tend to be slimmer. Start packing your diet with real food that grows out of the ground, and the pounds should come off naturally, taking you down towards your ideal weight. If there was one piece of advice that kind of best sums up my recommendations for weight loss, it would be wall off your calories. See, animal cells are encased only in easily digestible membranes, which allow the enzymes in our gut to effortlessly liberate the calories within a steak, for example. On the other hand, plant cells have cell walls that are made out of fiber, which acts as an indigestible physical barrier, so many of the calories remain trapped. Processed plant foods, fruit juice, sugar, refined grains, even whole grains, if they've been powdered into flour, have had their cellular structure destroyed, their cell walls cracked open, and their calories are free for the taking. But if you eat structurally intact plant foods, chew all you want, you're still going to end up with calories completely encapsulated by fiber, which then blunts the glycemic impact, delivers sustenance to your friendly flora, activates what's called the ileal brake, which dials down your appetite, and, frankly, dumps trapped calories out the other end. So, bottom line, try to make sure as many of your calories as possible, your protein, your carbs, your fat, is encased in cell walls. In other words, from whole intact plant foods. That's what nature intended to happen. Millions of years before we learned how to sharpen spears and mill grains, boil sugar cane, our entire physiology is presumed to have evolved in the context of eating what the rest of our great ape cousins eat, plants. The Paleolithic period, when we started using tools, only goes back about 2 million years. We and other great apes have been evolving since the Miocene era, more like 20 million years ago. So for the first 90% of our hominoid existence, our bodies evolved on mostly plants. It's no wonder then that our bodies may thrive best on the diet we were designed to eat. So maybe we should go back to our roots. All right, I got a few minutes here. What about the ketogenic diet? You know, body fat loss actually slows down when you switch to a ketogenic diet because your body starts cannibalizing its own protein. Just looking at the bathroom scale, though, the keto diet would seem like a smashing success, losing less than a pound a week on the regular diet to, boom, 3.5 pounds within 7 days after switching to keto. But what was happening inside their bodies told a totally different story. On a ketogenic diet, their rate of body fat loss was cut by more than half. So most of what they were losing was just water, but they were also losing protein. They were also losing lean mass. This may help explain why the leg muscles of CrossFit trainees placed on a ketogenic diet may shrink as much as 8% within 2 months. Weight training is supposed to make your muscles bigger, not smaller. But look, even if keto diets worked, the goal of weight loss is not to fit into a skinnier casket. Right? People whose diets even tend to trend that way appear to live significantly shorter lives. On the other hand, even drifting in the direction of eating more healthy plant foods is associated with living longer. Going the other direction, though starting out more plant-based, but then adding meat to your diet at least once a week, may not only double or triple your odds of diabetes, stroke, heart disease, and weight gain, but may be associated with a 3.6-year drop in life expectancy. That's going from no meat to just once a week meat or more. Low-carb diets have been shown to impair artery function and worsen heart disease. On the other hand, whole food plant-based diets have been shown to actually reverse heart disease. That's what Ornish and Pritikin used. So what appears to be the most effective diet for weight loss just so happens to be the only diet ever proven to reverse heart disease in the majority of patients. If my grandma didn't have to die like that, maybe no one's grandma has to die like that. If that's all a plant-based diet could do, reverse the #1 killer of men and women, shouldn't that kind of be the default diet until proven otherwise? And the fact that it can also be so effective in treating, arresting, or reversing other leading killers like type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure would seem to make the case for plant-based eating simply overwhelming. Only one diet has ever been shown to do all that, a diet centered around whole plant foods. So we don't need to mortgage our health to lose weight. The healthiest diet also appears to be the best diet for weight loss. After all, permanent weight loss requires permanent dietary changes. I mean, healthier habits just have to become a way of life. And if it's going to be a lifelong, you want it to lead to a long life. Thankfully, the single best diet proven for weight loss also just so happens to be the safest, cheapest way to eat for the longest, healthiest life. Thank you.
5 fruits and vegetables a day help to keep illness away.
I'd like to thank my mum for always caring about me, for worrying about my health and my diet. She never gave up on me when I wouldn't eat my fruit and vegetables, not even in the darkest days when she had to hide pieces of fruit in my ice cream or sneak sweet corn into my tuna mayonnaise sandwiches. When times were hard, she'd shop around to find fruit or veg in season or give me tinned or frozen instead. She knew if she kept trying, I'd come good one day. This is for you, Mum.
Visit nhs.uk/5 a day for tips on how you and your family can eat more fruit and veg.
Yes, 5 fruits and vegetables have the fiber, the minerals, the vitamins, the nutrients for life. You really need to get off of the low nutrient foods, the potatoes, and you shouldn't have anything boiled in oil. And get the good, healthy fruits and vegetables, at least 5 a day. 5 bits of servings every day, and it does keep the illness away.
I got a fever and inflammation, that's what I got. You turn the heat on me, so I'm like that hot. Call out the engine, ring up the station, I am on the spot.
The Southwest Patty Melt with jalapenos, pepper jack cheese, and spicy Santa Fe sauce.
Love burns you up the most, like it on
The classic just got a whole lot hotter.
baby, I like it.
If she really ate fast food like that, this is what she would look like before long.